Fylum. Yo, welcome to Fylum. I'm your host, Monkey, joined today by the Rasta Bird.
What's good?
Today we're talking about Jet Li's The One. If you've wanted to see an Asian man beat the shit out of countless cops, we have the movie for you.
Actually, if we get this, we're talking technically, this is police on police brutality.
What I've seen in this movie is we have a person of color. Does it count? Are Asians?
Yes. It's an all-inclusive term of color.
In most Jet Li movies, you get one Jet Li. Not here. You get every type of Jet Li you could imagine. The concept of the multiverse. Because this movie came out 20 years before Rick and Morty. Now everyone knows what the multiverse is. Back then, people did not.
No one cared. No one cared about the multiverse. No one cared about the multiverse.
That's more accurate. People may have known, but they didn't care. Jet Li, or one version of Jet Li, discovers that when he crosses over into another dimension and finds that dimension's version of himself and murders that dimension's version of himself, he gets all of his speed and strength. So when he's on trial at the beginning of the movie is where we get the best scene in the movie, where we get to see all the different versions of Jet Li. We see blonde Jet Li. We see Jet Li with dreads.
That's the very first alternate reality Jet Li you get to see is Rasta Jet Li.
I was surprised that they took it that far.
It's probably my cousin.
It's a Jeremy Lin situation.
I enjoy Jet Li having dreads more than Jeremy Lin because he looks hilarious. Like whatever universe this Jet Li is from, I want to go there.
At least I think they're insinuating that every version of him know kung fu.
Here's the thing.
It seems like they all know kung fu.
It seems like it can go either way. I don't think so. I don't think Rasta Jet Li knows kung fu.
That's racist. That's racist.
It's racist to think he does.
You pick the one who had dreads as the one who doesn't know kung fu.
Because he's my favorite Jet Li in this movie.
Our protagonist, whose name is Gabe, who has no idea there's a multiverse. We're introduced to his wife.
She's literally the most supportive woman I've seen in a movie in quite some time.
There's no conflict. They just love each other.
She came in at the last minute. Not a big role, but it's extremely important. If you don't like her, if you don't believe in her, the whole thing falls apart.
But more importantly than that, when the cops eventually try to frame Gabe for the other version of him's crimes, she's 100% down to lie to the LAPD.
My issue with that whole scene was, like, they first acted like they cared about this man. They're like, yeah, no, he's one of us. As soon as they're like, all right, well, it looks like he shot somebody, they're immediately like,
I've always hated that Chinese motherfucker.
They're immediately like, we need to kill this man now. The
movie has a really interesting mix. There's a entirely Western sci-fi laser gun interdimensional police force, which is from one movie. And to see that mixed with Jet Li's, Jet Li brings in his not just his martial arts, but
you have Jet Li and James Wong, and you can see that he brings in that kind of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Probably the best martial artist in the world. Who could be a better villain than himself?
Jet had some thematics that were important to him that he'd like to express in all the movies he did.
Things need a balance. We see a lot of action films and they focus on the physical part more than the internal inside.
For them to cast a Chinese man with, I think it's very progressive for the time. They as far as I know, they never did it again.
We'll think about it this way. There's also a lot of, like, you have to understand, this is also during the time when, like, Jet Li and Jackie Chan were at the height of their career. They were putting out movies after movies. They were getting casted as the main protagonist in a bunch of different movies.
Here's the thing also, is that what's important about it is that you can have an accent that is insane, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, but the fact that he's getting to just be himself to a degree, I thought that was really, I was very refreshing to see.
I mean, this is someone who, when he came to do Lethal Weapon 4, didn't speak a word of English. And now he is, the lead of the film, playing multiple characters.
We both just saw Delroy Lindo give an amazing performance in Da 5 Bloods, directed by Spike Lee.
Great performance, carried the movie.
But 20 years before that, he was in this movie. He's partnered with Jason Statham. This is, before I show the clip, I have to warn our audience. This is Jason Statham with hair, okay? You're gonna have to prepare yourself. You're gonna have to prepare yourself.
This is what this is. This movie is Jason Statham's his hairline. That's his last hurrah. Is this movie?
he must have gone to the theater and seen himself and gone.
He was like, I need to this gotta go.
Who let me do this? I can't believe none of my friends told me.
I need a new agent.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that Jet Li's been killing off his other versions of himself and he's been getting stronger. They actually really drive that home when he fights his former partner, who is Delroy Lindo.
Beats the shit out of this man in the park.
He really beats the mess out of him, and he is a bloody pulp by the end of this movie. But there's multiple, and it goes to show you, like, man, you watch this fight scene and you're like, this guy's like, the character that he's playing, he does a good job of this fight, because you're like, man, he's really fighting. He's really fighting, and he's literally swinging, and you're like, man, he's probably breaking his hands right now. You can see he's like on the ground by the end. By the end, he's on the ground like shaking. It's like, oh.
The movie is very poorly received. People do not like this movie.
It's a great. I highly enjoy it.
It is.
It's an extremely entertaining movie.
I was shocked to find out that critics did not like this.
I mean, there's a bunch of plot holes in the story.
Well, here's the other thing that people said is a legitimate complaint about these movies. A lot of the times, the movies that Jet Li and Jackie Chan made when they came over to the USA was that American directors did not know how to direct their action. You don't get to see. The only time in this movie you get to see him do real martial arts is
when he
by
fights
himself or when he fights himself. That's the only time that. Who else would know kung fu in this story? It doesn't even make any sense. And that's why this movie, I think,
almost doesn't make any sense that it's really random the way that they show, like, the last two versions of Jet Li both know kung fu for whatever reason.
Yeah, he gets shot, and then he just goes home.
With the vest on. He goes home, and everybody's like, oh, man, are you all right? He's like, I'm going to do kung fu now.
Yeah, so he's like,
and this will fix me.
Please, I know you're a very supportive wife, but I have to do something in the other room. It's kung fu. Something I don't have in my notes that you and me both noticed watching it is that this is 2001. There's obviously a lot of bad CGI in this movie. Not all of it's bad. Some of it's good. Some of it holds up. Some of it is really bad.
Yeah.
Where we just got Gemini Man with Will Smith, where he also fights himself. And I was asleep in that movie. I could not give half a shit what happened to anyone. This movie, we have Jet Li fight himself.
Jet is making contact with himself, so he actually physically had to be fighting with himself, with another body, because there's just the fact of what it feels like when someone gets hit. It has to be on the frame.
It's really clean.
It's very clean. It's smooth. There's no part where you see where you go, that's definitely not him.
Yeah.
There's also practical effects. Like a lot of the explosions, the fire is real around them.
It's 2001.
It's everything now would be CGI. When you go to these Marvel movies now, and it's just, you know, one guy on a green screen and everything around him is animation. In Endgame, when they all run at each other, I'm asleep. I don't give a shit. No one's in danger.
But that's because you have a different background than most. Like, the average viewer like me looks at that and I'm like, okay, this is CGI, but this looks really cool. Like, oh, it's
That's
like
fair.
I'm watching a comic.
That's fair.
I've never read comic books, but I don't need to because I can watch them now and they look amazing.
Okay, that's fair. I have saved, I think. Oh, the one last side note here is that we've mentioned Delroy Lindo gets whooped. Someone else who gets his ass whooped is Jason Statham by the evil Jet Li at the end of this movie. This man.
He does, but not to this. That's not to the same extent.
He doesn't get beat to death like Delroy Lindo does.
Delroy Lindo got beat to death, and you felt it. You watched that scene, you're like, man,
but
he's gonna die.
So he doesn't get beat to death, but Jason Statham gets whooped. He gets whooped in a way that is hilarious. That you and me were both going, whoa, watching this. And the last thing here, I saved the best for last. The best and worst soundtrack of all time.
Oh, hands down.
Best of 2001 rock music.
Let the Body Hit the Floor was probably used 3 different times throughout this movie.
That's the theme song of this movie.
Theme song of this movie, and it hits. Every time it comes up, you're like, yeah, this fight scene's legit. Let's go.
But yeah, I recommend it. This is one of my favorite. I would say this. I'd go as far as to say it's one of my favorite movies.
This is definitely a movie that if you had nothing better to do that day, you just decided, hey, I just want to watch something that entertain, shut my brain off, and laugh. The One is a great movie for that.